This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now we learn what to expect in the beef industry next year with Kyle Bauer and Randy Blach.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer. I have the opportunity to visit with Randy Blach. He's CEO of CattleFax. And Randy, always look forward this time of year and looking at your analysis of the coming year in the cattle industry. Where are we this year?
Well, we've had a pretty good run here over the last few years, Kyle. We are continuing to see a little bit of expansion in the industry, but it's slowed down considerably. We only expect to see the nation's beef cow herd up about 200,000 head this year. So we've grown at about 3 million head from the low in 2014, and I would say the cycle is right on cue to peak in here in the next year or two.
Well, and we've been able to increase the demand for beef during that time. Certainly the price isn't high, but we haven't cratered with that kind of an increase.
No, beef demand has been phenomenal, not only domestically but globally. We've just hit on all cylinders as we've come through here. If you look at the growth in spending, the improved quality rate of the product that we're putting out today, we've seen a 15% improvement in the quality grade of Choice and Prime. And demand for Choice and Prime, even though that quantity has increased 50%, I mean, demand is making new highs. So it tells you the consumers wanted more of the good stuff, and the industry's done a wonderful job of supplying that.
And that Choice and Prime is a bit of a unique product that we have when it comes to worldwide exports.
It really is. You know, the world wants good stuff too, and you know, the U.S. has a unique niche in the global marketplace. We are one of the few high-quality fed beef producers for the global marketplace. Most of the other countries are supplying grass-fed beef. So our product that we produce today is we had record beef exports in 2018 at about 3.2 billion pounds. Those exports added another $360 a head to the value of all the animals in our production system. So when you look at that from a value standpoint, exports generated 20% of the total value of a fed animal in 2018. That's unprecedented. That shows you how much the world economy means to global U.S. and global beef demand.
Certainly in Southeast Asia, we've seen some of the trade tariffs changed and are changing in the last half of 2018. Will that help us in 2019?
Well, I think we've got a few headwinds yet, that we've got to work through. The U.S. needs to, the Korean agreement has obviously been a big deal for the U.S. Korean exports or U.S. beef exports to Korea were record large in 2018, and they're going to continue to get more and more competitive going forward. So that's been a big deal for us. But the U.S. needs a trade agreement with Japan. And where we pulled out a TPP, the U.S. needs a bilateral to be able to stay competitive with Australia and some of the other suppliers of that market. So that's something we'll be watching pretty close as we go into 2019 to see if we can get that done. Obviously, the headwinds with China, that's been a roller coaster ride all year for really everybody, where you got the two major powerhouses around the globe that are kind of duking it out, so to speak. And that's one we hope we can get settled in here sooner as opposed to later.
And not to glaze over it, but because of the economy in the United States, demand in the United States has been very strong and looks to be decent in 2019 as well.
Oh, demand's been phenomenal. I think if you go back and look at domestic demand, beef spending, just put this in perspective. Beef spending in the United States from 2000 to 2018 is up about $60 billion. If we hadn't had that growth in spending and growth in demand, fed cattle prices would be trading $20 a hundred lower than they are today. So, you're talking about $270 a head on fed cattle. You're talking about $50 a hundred on the value of calves. That's what this demand piece of the equation has really been worth for us. So, again, you can't. The importance of our global beef demand or our U.S. beef demand can't be understated. It's been phenomenal. U.S. consumers will consume more beef pork and poultry in 2019 than any year in history. So consumers want high quality protein, and the U.S. beef industry has done a wonderful job of supplying that.
We're visiting with Randy Blach. He's CEO of CattleFacts. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except for when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulder sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. And said, well, I have to do surgery. I thought, I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.